This is the Overdue Homework Podcast.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm here with Trav, and I'm Drew.
And I'm Trav.
How are you today, Trav?
I'm doing pretty good, Drew. How about you?
I'm really good. Did you notice today, out my lovely window, that we are directly toilet adjacent?
We are directly toilet adjacent.
I had to replace my toilet in the basement, so that was a fun learning experience. I'd never done anything like that before, so that was pretty fun. Speaking of stuff that no longer works in my house, the whole idea behind this podcast was to watch stuff that I already have on VHS, to do video games that one of us already have and stuff like that. And I wanted to watch Batman, which was our homework that we had assigned in the last episode, on VHS, which I do and which I have, and was excited to watch it. I found out that my VCR has a newfound taste for magnetic tape. It was very hungry, apparently, and decided to eat the tape. I got the tape out of there, luckily, and did some damage to it. It'll never be the same. Hopefully it'll play, but I no longer have a VCR. So ISO in search of VCR for a reasonable price. I was looking the other day, and I found a woman that was getting rid of one for $5.
Boom.
Yeah. In a town over, and so I messaged her and I said, I'll take it as long as it works. I'll meet you in your town. Never heard back, so I'm guessing it didn't work.
Yikes.
So I mean, that's the way the way it goes, you know.
Yep.
Like I said, Batman was our assignment from last episode. So before we get going on the homework review, I want to ask Trav, do you have a favorite line from the Joker?
Favorite line? Not necessarily, but I definitely have two favorite scenes.
Okay.
The first scene is where you first see that he's the Joker, where you actually see his face and he goes to take out Grisham. That's just the most Joker-esque scene I can imagine, when he's shooting him more than he needs to and around his back and laughing, and I love that scene so much.
Yeah, and he emerges out of the darkness like a ghost. His face is just, obviously very, very white, and he just emerges out of the darkness, and everybody assumed he was dead.
Right.
Well, I guess, do you want to do an impression of the Joker? Like, do you want to say, this town needs an enema?
I don't know if I got that in me.
No? How about, wait till they get a load of me?
Wait till they get a load of me.
There you go. That's great. And then before we get to the homework, you got to give me your best. I'm Batman. I'm Batman. I'm Batman. I'm Batman. With those out of the way, I guess we'll just move on to the homework review. And I want to open it up by telling you how I saw this movie in the theater in 1989 in Moorhead, Minnesota. You didn't see it, obviously.
I did not. It came out 4 days before I was born.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I was 5, and I couldn't believe that my father took me to this movie in 1989. So I did ask him. He's like, "Yeah, I remember doing that." I mean, he is 68 years old now, so yeah. He's like, "I'll take your word on it." But I'm pretty sure that we went and saw it, because I mean, I have memory of going to the theater and it being a rainy day, and which makes sense because it was a June release. So, and I did go to Reddit to check it out and go to the Fargo Moorhead subreddit and ask the people on there if they remember the Safari, which was the theater where I believed it was playing at. If anybody remembers it being there, and the consensus was that, yeah, it probably was playing there. So I believe that I saw it in the theater as a 5-year-old, which, after watching this movie now 5 times, I think, since we assigned the homework, I find that interesting.
Kind of shocking.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, I tried to ask my dad if he remembers seeing this in theaters, because it came out right before I was born, and he's having trouble. I said, I'm going to guess you didn't see it in theaters. And so he's like, yeah, I must have rented that one. And my dad's never been a rewatcher. He doesn't rewatch stuff, which is the total opposite of me. I always rewatch stuff on repeat. But yeah, he's not a rewatcher, so all I really got out of him was Jack Nicholson's a legend. and I couldn't agree more.
I mean, really, if you drew one conclusion from Tim Burton's Batman, it should be that Jack Nicholson is an absolute legend.
100%.
He makes the movie. Spoiler alert, he makes the movie.
Yep.
Did you have anything you wanted to talk about before we start breaking down this film almost scene by scene?
Let's break it down.
Let's break it down. So that opening credit scene where they're zooming through the Batman logo with that music, it just is very it invokes everything for Batman. It hits all my nostalgia points immediately, right away. Yeah, it's it makes you think Batman, and immediately you know it's a Tim Burton movie, which is a positive, big time positive. And a couple other things that I noticed within the first few minutes, especially that first opening scene where you basically see where the Monarch Theater is and all the bustling and everything and all the tubes, is that it's got that old Hollywood feel because there's no computer animation whatsoever.
Right.
It's all matte paintings and models throughout the whole movie, and it's obvious that it was shot on a studio lot, but that adds to the charm of it because it just was it's a movie of its time, which you have to appreciate. I guess I kind of spoiled it for you when I told you that this is the only Batman movie where the Joker actually kills Bruce Wayne's parents.
A little bit.
Yeah, so I mean...
That's fine.
You do get tricked right away thinking, oh, this is where it's going to be. You're going to watch the Joker come out and kill Bruce Wayne's parents, and we're going to see the birth of the Batman.
Yep.
But instead, we see the Batman preventing something very similar to what happened to him.
Yep. Psych.
Psych. But built off of that scene, that was the first instance after everything goes down where that husband and wife get mugged, and you then see the two criminals on the roof, and the guy says, "American Express, never leave home without it."
Yeah.
Immediate tagline. I would guess that American Express probably had something to do with financing this movie.
Guaranteed.
And then soon thereafter, we hear one of the more iconic lines in 90s movie history where Batman says, "I'm Batman.
I'm Batman.
Don't kill me, man. Don't kill me, man. I'm not going to kill you. I just want you to let everybody know
I'm Batman.
I'm Batman."
In case there was any confusion for my outfit here.
Right after they just had a long conversation about the Bat.
Yeah. I'm not an imposter from Halloween Express. I am Batman.
What do you think the Halloween Express in Gotham would actually look like? What type of costumes would they have there? I mean, it would be messed up.
It would be.
I wonder what that actually
maybe Marvel characters.
Yeah, that I would like that. That would be very funny to go to a Halloween Express in Gotham City, and it's just Iron Man and Captain America and the Hulk. And
right.
That is great. That is absolutely great. Jack Nicholson makes his first appearance very soon after that, and we see him as Jack Napier flipping that card around, watching the news, and he just immediately takes the scene. He just immediately takes the movie. It's just
right away, right out of the gate. Right
out of the gate. It's pretty dang cool, And then there's a couple other scenes where you really establish who Jack Napier is and how he is pretty much detested by everybody and anybody. He's willing to do whatever it takes to get his criminal enterprises taken care of, including bribing the police.
Yeah.
Scene with Lieutenant Eckhart, where Eckhart is challenging him and pulls a gun on him, and then peekaboo, here comes Thug Bob.
Yep. You better be sure.
You better be sure. And then, soon after that, the whole plan to take place at the Access chemical plant comes to fruition, and it's very obvious that at this point, Grisham doesn't like Jack Napier either.
Yeah.
And
he can sense the threat coming.
He can definitely sense the threat coming from Jack Napier, and sets him up, basically, right? And do you think that Jack Napier, even before they leave for the chemical plant, understands that he's getting set up?
I think he knows already that it's going on.
Especially since he, after everybody leaves, is like, I really don't want to do this.
Yeah. He knows something's up.
He must know something is up. I mean, and soon thereafter, we're at the Access Chemical Plant, and it becomes very evident that it is a setup. One of the best lines in the whole film comes out at this point. Would you like to deliver it, Trav?
Eckhart's famous line, "Shoot to kill," if you know what I mean.
So when I rewatched this movie for the homework, it had been the first time that I had really sat down and rewatched this movie in a number of years. And when he says that, it's so hilarious that that's made it into the movie. Like, it had to be a joke, right?
It had to be a joke. I had not seen this, as I said in the first episode, so the only thing I wrote down the first time I watched this was that line, "Shoot to kill." You know what I mean? Oh, man.
But soon after, Jack figures out that it's a big old setup, and he tells everybody to be on their guard. They step out of the file room, and gun battle ensues with toxic chemicals flying
spewing everywhere, all over everyone's ankles and shins and face, and
nobody cares. I bet there would be a cancer cluster within those police officers in a few years.
Oh yeah.
And then it just goes down, and they demonstrate a few times that Batman is a no-kill superhero. He just hangs people up from the wires and stuff, which he has an infinite supply of these grappling hooks that just come out of nowhere and just come flying around.
And he's a one-hit knockout kind of guy.
Yep.
One hit and you're done. You're sleeping. So.
I found it interesting after, Jack is basically getting away. The exit is in his sight, but instead he decides he wants to confront Eckhart and kill him.
Yeah. That just proves how sick and twisted he is.
Yeah, it really does. And Batman comes out of nowhere, and he's like, "Nope, this ain't gonna happen. I'm kicking that gun out of your hand. You're not gonna kill anybody else like a true Batman would." And soon enough, so we talked about that. We watched the movie right before we did the podcast here, just to have it fresh in our minds. And we had a quick conversation about how the Joker got the scars on his face in this version of Batman. And we kind of decided that it was Jack shooting at Batman, Batman blocking the bullet with his bracers, right? That's what you call those things, right? The bullet then ricochets and hits the machinery that Jack has all set to basically self-destruct, explodes glass and metal, and then cuts this face up.
On both sides.
On both sides.
Perfectly.
Yes, it seems rather convoluted. But soon enough, Jack is done the first. He gets knocked over the railing, and he's done the first impossible grab of the movie.
Yep.
He ends up grabbing the railing. Batman reaches down, starts to try to help him up. And then, did Batman drop Jack Napier into the toxic chemicals, or did he slip Batman's grip?
I think he dropped him.
I think he dropped him too, because Batman probably could have used one of his grappling hooks to wrap him up or get both hands over there or something.
Didn't try very hard.
I think he dropped them also. So, and that that comes to matter all the way at the end of the movie.
Yep.
And then another semi-comical, after Jack Napier is dunked into the chemicals and everybody is presuming that he's probably dead because of the extremely toxic chemicals, Batman does his patented smoke bomb and his grappling hook away, and he went to the roof, right?
Where did he go?
He went to the roof, right?
Yeah, definitely went to the roof. Fooling the cops, of course.
And so I liked the reverse T2 at the end of that scene when Jack Napier, now the Joker, basically reaches out of the water instead of going down like the Terminator does. I like the reverse T2 there at the end. So he would be pretty badly injured at this point, right?
Yes.
Right?
Seemingly, how the hell does he walk out of that situation?
Yeah. And then, like, basically a scene later, we are in the underground surgery room,
which is seemingly hours after, but there's no possible way.
Right. There's just a big unexplained gap in time. I guess it's not unexplained. It's just completely removed. It was very glaring to me that it seems like probably at least a couple of weeks have passed at this point, and everybody presumes he's dead.
Yes. There's no way it's only been one day, and everybody's assuming he's dead. So it's got to be at least a few weeks.
But that was a pretty cool scene, and it's often parodied and fairly famous, where he breaks the mirror. He wants the mirror to see what he looks like, and the back alley surgeon tells him, "Look what I have to work with," and he says the nerves were all severed and all this stuff, and he gets the mirror and does his maniacal laugh, shatters the mirror, and stumbles out of there. I don't know if it's his delirium from basically having a complete psychotic break, or if he's doped up beyond belief. Probably both.
Probably both.
We talked in the last podcast that you haven't watched a lot of Simpsons. The Simpsons did parody the scene with Lisa.
Really?
Yes, they did. She gets braces. So it's in the episode Last Exit to Springfield, which aired March 11th in 1993. So it's season 4, episode 17. And she does the exact same thing after she gets braces, and it's a pretty funny thing. And it just goes to show the extent that Batman's influence had on pop culture. And then, soon after that, that's when we see the Joker confront Grisham in his loft. I don't know if that's like some office that he's in. I really don't know where the location is supposed to be. If it's supposed to be like
70th floor.
Right. I don't know the backstory necessarily on that, but we talked a little bit how he comes out of the darkness looking like a ghost, and obviously Grisham had no idea that Jack Napier, now the Joker, was still alive.
And he's terrified right away.
Yes, and he should be terrified, and he didn't do a very good job of trying to hide the fact that he was going to pull a gun from his desk.
No.
But he definitely I bet you wished he had taken another shot of whiskey before the Joker got a hold of him.
Yep.
And then after that scene, now the Joker is sitting literally at the seat of power where Grisham used to be, and delivers another one of his unbelievably iconic lines. "Wait till they get a load of me." And I told you I Googled this to see if this was Tim Burton paying homage to some other movie, but nope, this was the originator, and I don't know the exact story behind that line, if it was written that way on paper or if Jack Nicholson improv'd it, but man, you couldn't have picked a better person to deliver that line.
Yeah.
It was a very, very, it's a goosebumps moment for me when he says that,
Yes.
And, I definitely enjoyed that. Soon after that, you see an interesting scene where Vicky Vale is now following Bruce Wayne, unbeknownst to Wayne, because she wants to get some more information on him, obviously. And he goes and lays a few roses, 2 roses, one for his mother and one for his father, on the street corner where they were murdered.
So weird.
It is very odd. Why wouldn't you take that to the gravesite?
Because this way it was more mysterious, and it worked for the movie for her to uncover it.
It helped forward the plot, right?
Yes.
Soon after that, though, we see the Joker kill Vinny Ricorso. I had to look up the name because they just call him Vinny, and it's after he dies. Vinny Ricorso, by throwing that pen quill in his neck.
Which does not alarm any police. They
Nobody.
do nothing about it.
You can see the police officer standing in the background just kind of watching.
Wondering if he should do something.
And before all of this happens, there's a case of multiplying mimes, which is very odd in itself. One mime.
Very alarming.
Very alarming.
If I see more than 2 mimes, I'm probably out of there.
I would have to say the same thing. It was 1 mime and then 2 mimes, and then there's 4 mimes.
Yeah.
If you go on this, there's going to be an infinite amount of mimes after a certain number of minutes.
Yeah.
Which they all had machine guns, and they all shot up the whole place. And at this point, because I keep wanting to say Vicky Vale, but that's not right, is it? I mean,
she is.
Yes, it's Vicky Vale.
Vicky Vale.
So the Adam Sandler movies, they all have the double V. Also, like Veronica Vaughn, Vicky Vale's in this
Vicky
movie.
Valancourt.
Vicky Valancourt. Okay, so I think I want to call her like Veronica Vale or something like that. Now I'm definitely gonna not get it right.
Yep.
So, Vicky Vale. At this point, since Vicky Vale has been tailing Bruce Wayne, and now she's seen him at the scene of a very bloody and violent crime, get shot. I mean, it's a glancing blow. There was no blood, and just stand there where everybody else is cowering on the ground, and she still hasn't figured out that it's Batman.
No idea somehow.
I would be like, oh, I think he's Batman.
Yeah, I'm getting pretty strong Batman vibes here.
Oh man! And then the best thing about that whole scene is it's the slowest getaway ever. Nobody. I mean, at this point, all the cops in the area are dead. It is at City Hall, so you'd think that there would probably be a higher presence of police officers nearby, but
one would assume.
Yeah, the Joker just says "Toodaloo."
Toodaloo, see ya.
And soon after this, the master plan of the Joker gets unveiled. And that was to poison everybody that wears makeup. So I guess it's mostly geared towards women.
Yeah.
He wants to kill a lot of women. So you must have, I guess if you subscribe to a Sigmund Freud thing, he's definitely got some mommy issues then, I would assume.
Yes.
And then you barely hear it in the movie, but the name of the toxin is Smilex toxin. I heard him, like, when he's holding up the jug and like the pirated TV screen, he says, now with more smile, and you hear barely in the background him finish the sentence or finish the word, and I had to look that one up too to see what it was. But have you ever heard of Max Headroom?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so it was like this. So Max Headroom was this 80s like fake. He was supposed to be an AI, but it was done with an actor and makeup and like blue screen. So he's supposed to be this computer generated AI. And I bet if you Googled Max Headroom and you saw some stuff on YouTube, you would at least recognize the character. Sure. So the TV show he had, and I believe it was a movie also, were in the early 80s, and it was like a British thing. So it wasn't a super big deal in America. But he did go on to basically be a pitchman for like Pepsi and let me see who else. Pitchman for Pepsi was the big one. It was a 1985 British made-for-TV movie turned into a TV series. And there's a pretty cool a video about this thing called the Max Headroom incident. So in Chicago in 1987, somebody, through means that are still undiscovered today, was able to pirate a television signal, because at the time everything was over the air, it was just radio signals. It's not digital like it is now. And they put in their own programming, and it was like this fake Max Headroom. It was really, really weird and out there, talking about all types of just goofy stuff. And it was like a total like 9 minutes or something like that. And nobody to this day still knows who did it or anything like that. So it's definitely worth looking up on YouTube, the Max Headroom incident. And there's also a good article that if you just Google 30 years later, Max Headroom TV pirate remains at large, you can read if you're interested in seeing it. But anytime in the movie that the Joker breaks into a television programming, this is what it made me think of. It kind of looked like the video, had similar qualities to it, so I don't know if that's Tim Burton like nodding to that, because it was only 2 years after an incident that made national news.
Definitely.
So I thought that was kind of pretty cool. And then eventually, by the end of all of this scene, we go back to the two TV anchors, and the one woman that died is no longer there, obviously, and neither of them are wearing makeup.
Yep. They look rough.
They did look very rough. Shortly after this scene is when the movie really starts to get going towards the climax with with the museum scene where Vicky Vale is obviously lured to this museum by the Joker, and we realized this because of the phone call she placed to Alfred saying that she was going to be 10 minutes late to dinner with Bruce, and Bruce said, I don't have dinner plans with Vicky Vale. So good for her. He was probably immediately put on his Batman uniform, Batman outfit, and went straight there. So when the Joker and his thugs make their entrance into the museum after they've gassed everybody, I suppose I should take a step back. Vicky gets a box that says urgent, and then she opens it. It's a gas mask and says, put this on now. And so she does. The Joker gasses the museum. Everybody's dead, right?
That's presumably.
Not just knocked out. Everybody's dead.
I think so.
Yeah, everybody's dead. And
Seems like the Joker thing to do.
Yeah, it really does. So then they go on their own little anti-art. Like, he's not stealing the art. He's just destroying it.
Yeah.
Which is a very Heath Ledger Batman thing to do.
Isn't he supposedly improving it?
Yes, that's what it is. Yeah. He's improving the art, which, I guess later on he basically in that same scene he describes on how he's improving people with his art, but I'm getting ahead of myself now. So he's going through the museum and he is improving the art until they get all the way up to the top where the restaurant is, where Vicky Vale's waiting with this gas mask, and he stops Bob the Thug from destroying a piece of art. And I told you, that's a piece of art done by Tim Burton.
Which is super cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. And once you know that and you can watch that scene, the painting makes many appearances in that scene. I think it's 3 different appearances that the painting makes in the scene. So he obviously wanted people to see that painting. When the Joker is gassing everybody, it reminded me a lot of the 60s Batman, because they had all the Dutch angles. Everybody was fainting, dying, but everybody was falling over. It just really reminded me of really reminded me of that Adam West Batman. Do you know what other movies really famous for their Dutch angles? Do you know what I mean by when I say Dutch angles? So like when the shot is like askew. So not everything is like centered and straight on. It's kind of at an angle or like looking up. You know what I mean, right?
Almost like the camera's falling over with the person.
Yeah. Now, next time you watch Thor, and this is pretty well known. Next time you watch Thor, keep in mind that movie is like 99% Dutch angles. Okay. You will never, ever be able to unsee it. And you'll just be like, oh my Lord, is there ever going to be a straight on regular shot in this movie? And interestingly enough, too, with this scene, it's even though Prince made a whole soundtrack, this is the first time a Prince song is featured in the movie.
About an hour in.
An hour and 1 minute into the whole movie. And that song, Party Man, which in the soundtrack, Prince wrote songs about specific characters and specific scenes, I believe also. Like, that was his intent when he was writing the songs. This song is actually about Jack Nicholson and not about the Joker. Because apparently during the filming and all that stuff and just Prince being involved with Hollywood-type people, Jack Nicholson was a party animal. So,
I believe it.
Yeah, and so that was the whole impetus of that song. That was the whole idea. I guess an interesting side note about Prince in this movie. So this album for Batman was his first number 1 album since 1986's Kiss. And there's a pretty good article on Showbiz cheat sheet called Prince recorded an album for Tim Burton's Batman movie because he was in debt and needed the money. So you don't really need to read the article after you hear that, because it's basically Prince spent too much money producing songs, and it was an opportunity for him to be creative and still make a bunch of money. And like I said in the last podcast, his popularity was on the way down. It was just, was the way that type of stuff goes.
Mm-hmm.
So now they have their big escape from this scene, right? The Batman comes down, showering everybody with glass in the museum, and then him and Vicky Vale are out of there, and they escape via the Batmobile, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, and they do that cool little zip line out of there. He kicks the doors open. One of the guards feigns jumping up. Like, you probably could have grabbed Batman's ankles if he wanted to try. He's probably like, I don't get paid enough for this stuff. I don't want to actually.
But the Joker's too in awe of the gadgets.
He is. Where does he get all these fancy toys, right? Isn't that what he says?
And they get out, and he says, get in the car. And she says, which one?
Which one? The giant black one over there.
Yeah, try the one that doesn't look like a normal vehicle, maybe.
Right. And so this is the first time we get to see the Batmobile in action, right?
Yes.
It's not an overly long scene where he's driving away and escaping from everybody. He does use a cool little grappling hook again to get around this corner, causing a giant accident where people just keep on driving into it over and over.
Piling up.
Right. Are you a Futurama fan?
I've seen some, but I've not seen all of it.
Do you remember the brain episode where all the brains come from space and like make everybody really stupid?
I don't think so.
So these giant brains come from space and make everybody really stupid. And on the news, this scene in Batman reminded me of this Futurama episode. There's a giant like train crash at their like main hub in Futurama in the future in New York, and the newscaster says. According to the mayor, the newscaster says, oh man, I'm butchering this terribly. She says that she's going to just keep on sending in more trains into this accident because everybody's really stupid. And that's what this scene reminded me of. Like. Just keep on sending in more and more and more cars.
And you asked me last episode what my favorite Batmobile was.
I did.
Having not seen this, I did say The Dark Knight because I like the tank feel on that. And I've seen the new one now too. And I'm going to have to reassess my answer. And I do think this is my favorite Batmobile.
Really?
That's Tim Burton one.
That's awesome.
It's the most Batman Batmobile.
It is.
I mean, the other ones are still cool, of course, but they're much updated, and they don't really give you, oh, that's the Batmobile.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But I like this one a lot.
Yeah, it's a very cool Batmobile, and it just, like, the Nolan Batmobile, like you said, is a tank.
Mm-hmm.
The new Pattinson Batmobile.
Is what, like a Mustang?
It's like a hot rod something. It's cool. It's
super
really
cool, but it's basically a muscle car.
It's basically a muscle car. But like the Tim Burton's Batman, that Batmobile is like, that's
the Batmobile.
That's the Batmobile. Yeah. There's no denying what it could possibly be. It's almost like
they knew they couldn't replicate that, so they had to go completely different for the new one.
Yeah, and I think that's probably what they definitely did. But soon after the Batmobile to get back to the Batmobile here, becomes incapacitated. Batman and Vicky Vale get out of the Batmobile, and Batman says, Shields.
Shields.
That was, so we talked about it a little bit. The final shot of the Batmobile with the shields on it was probably like a physical thing put on top of the car, right?
Must be.
But when it's transitioning, that was definitely like animation, probably like drawn on each individual like movie cell, right?
Probably.
Yeah. They escape running into an alley, which Gotham seems like it's all alleyways.
All alleys.
It's all alleys.
One giant alley.
When they designed Gotham, the city planner must have been like, I do like streets, but you know where it's at. Alleyways.
Let's put some alleys in the alleys.
That alleyway, I think it needs an alleyway.
Yep.
And so they're pinned. They got no place to go. Batman gets out a
grappling hook
and asks Vicky Vale one of the most sexist questions in the whole movie. How much do you weigh?
108, I think.
And then later they shame her for not being 108 pounds.
I know. And that just... No,
and we've talked about this. This is stuff that we're going to run across in all of these movies. That there's going to be stuff that just doesn't hold up.
There really is. Like, we already passed over the hello legs.
Oh, we did. Yes, when Vicky Vale does get introduced, those are the first lines that Alexander Knox. There you go. Thank you. Alexander Knox says to her, "Hello, legs." And then by the end of the scene, he's asking her to marry him. And then he settles for lunch instead.
Just a dirty pig.
Just a dirty pig.
Dirty pig.
So they are escaping by grappling hook. They don't make it all the way because, like I said, Batman's going to shame her later for not being 108 pounds.
Yep.
So he says one of the more sexually ambiguous lines of the movie, "Grab onto that thing by my belt." I mean, it's something along the lines.
Whatever you do, don't let go.
Whatever you do, don't let go. So she grabs it. He falls to the ground. And then there's the thugs. They shoot him point blank range in the chest with their pistols. I think it was at least 2, maybe 3 pistols, point blank range, right?
Yep.
And then one of the thugs says, "Who is this guy?"
Check his wallet.
I wish that they would have rolled him over and like pulled a wallet out of his back pocket.
That would have been great.
Speaking of things that don't hold up, Batman's costume does not hold up.
It's pretty brutal.
It is pretty brutal.
It's very basic.
It's very basic, and the whole immobile head thing is, it's been...
I can't get over that.
No, it's been done to death too, but it's just so bad.
It's so bad.
It's so bad, and...
I don't like how the headpiece is over the cape.
Yes.
Like, I don't notice if maybe it is that way in the other ones, and you don't notice it, but it's like, how does this cape function in any way if this headpiece is so firm over it?
Right, and yeah, it's just the thickness of that rubber around, like it just does not hold up whatsoever, and I don't know why they decided to go with the extremely rigid neck.
Yeah, I don't either.
Who was like, yeah, make his neck rigid and immobile.
Yeah, do bats not turn their heads? Am I confused here? I don't know.
I do not want him to be able to look side to side without turning his entire body.
Yeah, I want you to see the bat logo wherever he looks.
Maybe that was why they did it.
Yeah, maybe.
So after they try to check his wallet, they obviously get into a big fight. Batman beats everybody up. Bob the bad guy, Joker's right-hand man, gets the final comedic little bit where he's holding a knife and Batman gives him the, "Come on over here," and he just drops the knife.
He tosses it, he's out of there.
Yeah. So in that scene also, there is the first obligatory Indiana Jones moment. Do you know what I mean by Indiana Jones moment?
I don't, because I haven't seen those.
You haven't seen Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Nope.
Okay, so that's the first one. Yeah, so that's the first in the series for Indiana Jones, and in that movie, famously, Indiana Jones faces off against a sword-wielding assailant, and the guy's flipping his sword everywhere, doing all this really fancy stuff, and Indiana Jones just looks at him, pulls a gun out of his holster, and shoots him dead.
And that's pretty much what happens here, but it's just like some contraption in his hand.
Yes, and just destroys him.
Destroys him in one hit.
It destroys him in one hit. So it was like...
Well, he gets up one more time, does some more fancy swinging, and then he's done for. So
then he's a
two-hitter.
He is a two-hitter. So it was obligatory Indiana Jones moment, and it's interesting to find those in many other movies because they are everywhere.
Yeah, like what is this dude doing quadra-flipping over the fence? And I mean, seriously, it was a little too much.
It was a little bit too much. So after all this goes down, he and Vicky Vale head back to, they don't head back to the Batmobile. The Batmobile comes to them, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
He says, shields off, right? Shields off or shields up? Shields off.
Shields off.
Shields off. And does he direct the Batmobile to come to him, or does it just start going?
Does he have GPS on him? I don't know.
He might. I guess that would make the most sense. But it does come flying at him, and for some reason or another, he had to tell it to stop. Like, do you think if he didn't tell it to stop, that it would have ran him over? Or do you think he...
Apparently.
Like, do you think he told the Batmobile to stop because he wanted to impress Vicky Vale? Do you think...
Maybe. He's a little bit of a showman there.
So, like, he didn't need to say stop. Like, it would have stopped on its own, but he wanted to look
imagine. Cool. Yeah. Check this out. Stop.
So... they get back into the Batmobile and they go flying off to the Batcave, which has a really, really cool scene in between those two scenes when they are in the Batmobile driving to the Batcave and they go through the most Tim Burton forest in cinema history. And it really, really works for the movie. It looks super duper cool.
It does.
The leaves flying everywhere, the like almost dead looking forest that he's going through, because obviously the leaves are all on the ground, so that but it's super cool. It makes me think of movies like Nightmare Before Christmas.
Definitely.
Makes me think of Beetlejuice, which are all good movies that could definitely be making appearances on this podcast at some point. Yeah, definitely will be.
Eventually.
I don't know if doing a Tim Burton film as our first homework assignment is a blessing or a curse, because I feel like we're going to fall into a Tim Burton hole like very quickly.
Yeah.
Just because his best content is from that mid 80s to late 90s.
Right.
It's right in our wheelhouse type of thing. So it's probably a good thing. But if you would, Trav, I'd like you to join me in the Batcave. So we're in the Batcave.
Whoa.
And
Alfred?
We made it into the Batcave. Do you think Bruce Wayne knows we're in here?
Bruce Wayne knows nothing.
He knows nothing. Do you want to continue to do this whole part in the Batcave, or should we step out of the Batcave so it's actually listenable?
We should probably step out of the Batcave. Alfred?
Oh my goodness. Okay, we're moving out of the Batcave. Okay, great. But this is the first time that we did get to see the Batcave, and it is a very cool Batcave. Like, it's
probably the coolest one. It's like you said, watching it, it's a literal cave.
It's a cave
that he customized to make awesome.
There's some interesting platforms with like one single piece of equipment on them. Like, well, you really going to go up a 25-foot ladder to just use that one piece of equipment?
Yeah.
I know.
We don't use that much. We can put that over here.
It's definitely with Burton's aesthetic over functionality sometimes, but it definitely looked really cool. And I did write down in my notes that the Batcave had a very, very good Tim Burton aesthetic. It's obviously, because it's a Tim Burton movie, his fingerprints are all over it. It should be. It's his idea, is the way he put it together. So this is where they have like the first. He's still in his Batman uniform, Batman costume. What do you think is a better way to say it? Costume or uniform? Costume sounds like he's a weirdo. Uniform sounds like he's going to go punch a clock somewhere. You know what I mean? Do you think he punches the clock for Batman? He punches in and punches out, keeps track of his overtime and all that type of stuff?
I mean, he might.
He might. Who knows? For taxes, he is a billionaire. He's got to get those loopholes.
Yep.
But they really get down to business in this scene, talking about the cosmetics and what Batman basically discovered. He discovered that it's not one cosmetic that is causing people to die with hideous grins on their faces. It's a combination of all the different cosmetics that everybody uses in their daily lives. I pointed it out to you. Had you noticed that there was all types of bathroom items on his console?
I didn't at all.
So if you look in the background of that scene, there's mouthwash and toothpaste and lotions and all types of stuff just sitting on his console. And when I was a kid, I always thought, like, oh, he's just a really busy Batman. He doesn't have time to go upstairs to Wayne Manor and brush his teeth and do all that stuff. No, he's doing tests on the cosmetics to figure out that, because he's a detective. So he figured it out. And obviously that's how he figured it out.
Makes sense.
So then they get everything out into the media saying that it's multiple cosmetics and all that stuff. And soon after all of that goes down, Batman and Alfred have a little bit of a heart-to-heart about Vicky Vale and how she could be the one for Batman.
And he's like, I don't know if I have enough time.
You marry her. That's what he says, right? You marry her, Alfred. But after being inspired by Alfred and them talking about how Vicky Vale is the bee's knees, is a real cool gal, he decides that it's time for him to go to her apartment and say, I'm Batman.
I'm Batman. Except he doesn't say, I'm Batman.
No, he doesn't get to it. He tries really, really hard to get those words out of his mouth, and it literally looked like he was going to say, I'm Batman.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to like try to...
He doesn't know how to say it normal. So. I'm Batman.
But
why is it so hard to say that? If she already likes him as Bruce Wayne, and he's saved her as Batman already, and Batman's a badass,
and she should have been able to
have anything. What could go wrong in that situation?
So, like, the whole idea behind hiding your identity is to protect those around you, right? But
True.
He's got nobody around him besides Alfred really to protect. So you're right. Why doesn't he just say I'm Batman?
Nobody knows.
I mean, really, she probably should have been able to figure it out.
Yes, we definitely talked about how there was way too many instances where she should have known he was Batman. Like when he's hanging upside down in the bedroom.
I forgot about that.
After they hook up that first night, she's just like, no, okay.
I did decide to glance over that scene, but you're right. He did sleep with her that night after she had too much to drink, which is another thing.
He had one.
And he's flying after one, all right?
He's flying. The Batman is flying after one drink.
Yes, he is, because he's not a big drinker.
He is not a big drinker.
But, they're at Vicky's apartment. He pushes her down very misogynistically, kind of in like a, hey, you're being a crazy woman. Sit down and let me talk. Which is another instance of this.
Doesn't happen anymore.
No, that stuff shouldn't really be in movies anymore.
It really shouldn't.
Soon after that, the Joker makes an appearance, which he must have been Bruce Wayne must have been behind a screen or off to the side or something, because Joker does not notice Bruce Wayne in the apartment right away.
At all. Or just doesn't care?
Or just doesn't care completely. I don't think he notices him, because later in that scene, he does say, oh, Bruce Wayne.
Right, so he obviously knows who he is already at that point.
Yeah, and he's not very surprised to see him there, which is odd in itself. You'd think he would be a little bit more on guard about that. But
yeah.
Whatever, I guess it doesn't really matter that much. And so Bruce, in a scene before he gets confronted by the Joker, he sees a metal tray, a silver tray, which he manages to untuck his shirt, probably undo his belt, untuck his shirt, get it underneath his shirt, retuck his shirt in, put his belt back on, and then get back out there in time to take a bullet in the chest. Which, after do you think he's like trying to egg the Joker on to actually get him to shoot him? It seems like he's trying to do
almost,
right? Like he's
shoot him and get him out of there.
Yeah, maybe that's like he knows that the Joker shoots for the heart and only the heart.
Yeah, he won't shoot my face. What if he shot you in the face? That was a risk we were willing to take.
What is that from?
Dumb and Dumber.
No, that is from Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah, what if he shot you in the face?
That's also kind of in Super Troopers too, right? When they're doing the bulletproof cup.
Yeah.
That's another great movie.
That little guy? Don't worry about
that little guy. But yeah, the Joker shoots him in the chest, leaves like it's no big deal because he thinks Bruce Wayne's dead. He just killed the richest man in Gotham. He asked for a moment, which I don't really know why, because he just talked to Vicky a couple more things, and then he left.
He dips, Vicky turns around, and Bruce is gone.
Bruce is gone, so she should have been like, at that point, oh my God, Bruce Wayne is Batman.
Nope, still didn't click for Vicky.
Still didn't click for Vicky, but Bruce is gone at this point. And did you notice that the bullet was like halfway through?
So he would be bleeding or broken rib or something.
I don't think he would have been getting up off the floor. But he is Batman. He should be super duper fit. I mean, he does hang upside down every night during.
That's true. That is very true.
And then, after this is when we move on to the the Wayne murder flashback, which it's interesting that they waited until 3/4 of the movie to really reveal how Batman became Batman.
Yeah.
And in this movie, like we said before, it's the only one where the Joker is actually responsible for Bruce Wayne's parents' death.
Mm-hmm.
The actor that they chose for that, let me get his name here. Hugo E. Blick. Dead ringer. That was a heck of a casting job by whoever the casting director was.
Seriously perfect. He's got the smile and he's got the hairline. Everything's perfect.
It was just absolutely perfect. And I think of the famous line, "You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight?" I think of it in the way that he says it, not in the way that Jack Nicholson says it or anybody else says it. That's in my mind, when I think of that line, I think of...
And I'm really glad that they didn't use Jack Nicholson and pretend like he was younger. And that,
So today they probably would have de-aged him digitally, right? And it would have looked really, really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a really good casting director.
Yep.
And then... you get that final showdown next after all this goes down at the Axis Chemical Factory, where Batman sends the Batmobile in. It drives around in a whole bunch of fire, blowing everything up, destroying the Joker's lair, which, did you find it odd that the Joker chose the place where he was deformed as his hideout?
Sort of, yes.
Yeah. It was a little bit interesting, but I guess it makes sense.
Maybe because he's... assuming he's immune to said chemical.
It could
or he's
be.
Just not afraid anymore.
It could be, but either way, the Axis Chemical Plant is long gone.
Long gone.
I wrote down that the Batmobile looked wicked badass in this too.
It does look wicked.
It
badass.
really did. Soon after that, the Joker then breaks into another TV broadcast while the mayor and Harvey Dent are having a press conference about all the crime that's going on, and that everything's going to be A-okay for the 200th anniversary party and all this stuff. And I completely lost my train of thought. I don't even know where I was going with that. He busts in to tell everybody that he's going to throw $20 million at this parade to get everybody there.
Yeah.
Which, seems like a really nice thing to do, right?
Yeah.
So,
really nice.
Everybody's going to go.
I prefer money over candy at parades.
So they have the parade, and the Joker's throwing the money like he said, and then he gasses him.
And then you got a handful of money.
And you're dead. And you're dead. And you're dead. But we do get the Batwing out of this, which is always a positive.
Which is super cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. The only Batman movie with the Batwing? Yeah, it's the only one I can think of. I can't think of it being in any other scene.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been nice to see, maybe where he stored it, where it came from. Maybe just seen it. I guess it was probably a big reveal. It was probably one of those things that people didn't know it was coming when the movie was coming out. So maybe you don't foreshadow it within the movie, but it would have been, I guess that's something that we expect from more modern movies that are a lot longer, where they can fit more story into them. But it does a heck of a job. He flies that thing all over the place, has that very specialized tool in the front made for catching balloon wires.
Yeah.
Catches them all.
Stole my balloons.
Catches them all, takes them up into the atmosphere, clips them. They go flying off, and no more balloons.
No more balloons. Joker's pissed.
Joker is very angry. So then Batman decides to come around in the Batwing one more time to take out the Joker. But the Joker has a secret weapon, quite literally.
Quite literally. This was my second favorite scene of the movie that I referenced earlier. And it's definitely, if you think of The Dark Knight with Heath Ledger waiting in the middle of the road for that semi, just begging Batman to come at him.
Mm-hmm.
It was 100% a nod to this scene.
Definitely.
And it gave me the chills seeing this for the first time, because it's just so awesome. And then you see him pull out this pistol that's the size of his leg and one-shots Batman down to the ground.
Yeah, which, it must have been one heck of a bullet in that thing, which it's believable from the Joker, because he's got all types of wacky gadgets too. But
what's not believable is, like you said when we were watching this, what is up with Batman's computer system in this Batwing that he supposedly locks him in and misses not only every bullet coming out of these Gatling guns, multiple missiles. So, gonna need to work on that computer system.
Yeah, gonna need to get something better. He pulled out that Star Wars X-Wing looking thing to, look it down, and it did not go well for him. That's for sure.
Didn't do much.
Ended up crashing pretty hard at the Gotham Cathedral. Interestingly enough, this is the final scene in the movie at the Gotham Cathedral. There's a little bit of a crazy story about this scene. Originally, Batman was supposed to summon a whole bunch of live bats with a sonar device to basically kill the Joker. That was going to be how the movie was going to end. Be pretty succinct and take care of everything, and that's it. Got a whole bunch of bats to take care of the Joker. But they're one of the producers on this movie. His name is John Peters. Do you have any idea who John Peters is?
Mm-mm.
John Peters is famous for producing the Superman movie that never was. Nicolas Cage was once tapped to be Superman.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you go to cracked.com and search the bonkers behind the scenes story of the ending of Tim Burton's Batman by J.M. McNabb, you can read this whole story. But I'm going to give you some quick points here. So John Peters, he owned the rights to Superman. Nick Cage was going to be Superman, and Tim Burton was to direct this Superman. But John Peters had some very specific things about his Superman movie that he wanted in it. Number one, Superman couldn't fly.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, Superman had to have a black suit instead of his trademark red and blue.
So Batman style.
Yeah. And the final big thing that John Peters needed to have in this Superman movie was Superman was to fight a giant spider. That was going to be the pinnacle of the movie. That was going to be the apex, the finale of the movie.
Is John feeling okay?
Needless to say, this script went back to rewrites so many times that the studio said, "We done with that.
We're done with that." All right.
So John Peters, he decided to put Kim Basinger in the finale of the movie. She wasn't supposed to be in it. Do you happen to know why Kim Basinger was shoehorned into the finale of the movie? She was dating John Peters at the time.
Ah, makes sense.
So a movie that was already over budget, he's changing the finale of the film. He okayed a $100,000 38 foot tall model to be built of the cathedral. And this scene was so haphazardly thrown together, it was largely improvised. And to put the cherry on the top here, Nicholson apparently asked Tim Burton why his character would walk up all those stairs in this cathedral. Because that doesn't really make much sense, right?
No.
Why wouldn't you just go to some building with an elevator or have the helicopter come down and get you from street level?
Yeah.
Tim Burton had to tell Jack Nicholson, one of the biggest movie stars in the world at that time. You could probably say he's one of the biggest movie stars still. I don't know why you would do that, Jack Nicholson.
So the movie can happen.
That was basically it, So that final scene is completely different than what was originally was going to happen. Do you think that's for the good or for the bad? Would you have liked to have seen the old ending?
So was he not supposed to die in the old ending?
He dies. Yes, he dies.
Okay. I don't know, because you get some head scratchers with how the hell does he hold on to this ledge when he gets hit off the end there?
That's one of the other impossible grab moments. There's two in that scene when when Batman gets knocked almost over the edge where the giant bell is. He manages to grab onto something and kill a dude in the process by throwing him down into the destroyed stairwell, which I didn't think Batman killed anybody.
I didn't think so either, but apparently he does.
Right. And then the Joker gets thrown over the edge at the very end, and he manages to grab onto the ledge, all the while grabbing onto Vicky Vale and Batman and throwing them over the edge before he's able to get his footing.
Yeah, regaining his own balance while Batman the superhero can't do the same.
Right. Basically, at the end of the film, Batman and Vicky Vale are hanging onto the edge of the tower. The Joker is getting rescued by the helicopter, and Batman makes the shot of his life and manages to grapple hook the Joker's foot to a giant gargoyle, which eventually gets torn off the side of the building. Probably should have ripped the Joker in half. And ultimately was met his demise because of this 400 pound gargoyle that drags him to his death.
And again, these two up in the helicopter, why don't they just lower it 10 feet, let him maybe drop down, get that unattached, and get out of there? But No.
No, not going to happen. So
Just climb. Come on. Come on.
So at this point, now Batman and Vicky also end up falling. And once again, saved by the grappling hook.
How many grappling hooks does he have on him?
An infinite supply of grappling hooks.
Infinite supply.
He's probably got a gadget. So he doesn't have like an infinite supply of grappling hooks on his belt. He's got a gadget that manufactures grappling hooks as he needs them, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That's got to be what it is.
Okay, I'm going to go with that because that's the only way that really makes sense.
Yep.
So the movie ends with Batman and Vicky Vale hanging from a rope, the Joker having some sort of laugh box, maniacally, there's the word, maniacally laughing, which I said to you means that he probably planned on dying, or at least plans on dying at any situation.
Yeah.
Like, that's just how little life and death probably means to him.
Exactly.
Well, meant to him, because he's dead now. And then, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Somehow he didn't turn into goo.
Yeah, he should have been a red splatter after that fall, that's for sure. And then the final scene, classic Batman, after they reveal to the citizens that Batman is now on the police's side and we're going to fight corruption. And Alexander Knox gets his final line in and says, how are we going to signal him, or how are we going to let him know we need his help? And there's the bat signal.
There's the bat signal.
Cut to Batman standing guard over Gotham City like he always does. He's Batman. He's Batman. So I will definitely give this movie, I'm going to say, on a rating of 5, I'm going to give it 4.8. I'm Batman's. Out of 5. That's what I'm going to give it.
4.8.
4.8. It's for me, it's judging it on a piece of nostalgia, it's nearly a perfect piece of nostalgia for me.
Definitely.
It's it's a good Batman movie. If you've seen everything else Batman and you haven't seen 1989 Tim Burton's Batman, do yourself a favor and go see it. And if you've listened to this whole podcast and you didn't see it, what are you doing?
What are you doing to yourself?
You should have watched it before we had the podcast. Like, duh.
Seriously. Get with it, people.
Get with it. So is there anything else that you'd like to add to this? Anything else that you want to talk about with Batman?
I just want to remind everybody that the others would not have happened without this Batman.
That's true.
This
Very
one
true.
is, I'm honestly surprised that I haven't seen it, but I did love it very much. And it's hard to pick which one's my favorite of the three. So we're going to leave that a mystery.
Leave it a mystery. So I guess it's thanks to everybody that actually did the homework from our last episode, because that means you listened to the very first episode,
which is cool.
Which is very cool. But now we're going to move on to our homework assignment. It makes sense for our next homework assignment to be Batman Returns. Like I said, we might fall down a little bit of a Tim Burton rabbit hole, but we're going to go with Batman Returns for your homework assignment. A quickle. Is that like a couple quick? Quickle?
Quickle?
Quickle. I'm just going to start saying that now instead of a couple of quick facts. I'm going to call it a quickle. Did you know that this is considered, Batman Returns is considered to be part of the unofficial Tim Burton holiday trilogy, which include 1990's Edward Scissorhands, 1992 Batman Returns, and 1993's Nightmare Before Christmas.
Because they all came out in December?
They all take place over Christmas. That's an interesting thing about Batman Returns is Batman Returns came out in June. It's a Christmas movie.
Interesting.
It takes place in Christmas. People consider it a Christmas movie. I consider it a Christmas movie. In this movie, Burton, Keaton, Basinger, they all return. Some great names got added to the cast. Michelle Pfeiffer, Danny DeVito, Christopher Walken, Paul Rubens. You know who Paul Rubens is?
Name sounds familiar.
That's Pee Wee Herman.
Oh, okay.
This was Paul Rubens' first movie role after he got busted playing touchy selfie in an adult theater.
Yikes.
I mean, you heard about that story, right?
I've heard vague.
That's literally what happened. He was in an adult movie theater, like a movie theater that you would go to watch pornography. And he got busted by the police for touching himself inappropriately.
Pee-wee.
It ruined his Pee Wee Herman career for many years, but Tim Burton still had faith in him, that's for sure.
Yeah, not a problem here.
And then finally, Erica Andresch. Erica Andresch. Trav, you strike me as an American Gladiators fan.
I've never seen it.
Oh my goodness, American Gladiators. Well, she was Diamond on American Gladiators, so when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's Diamond from American Gladiators. That's hilarious that she's in Tim Burton Batman Returns. Like I said, it was one of Paul. This is what I wrote down because I was one of Paul Rubin's first roles post masturbation scandal. The first, it was between Buffy the Vampire Slayer, March 10th, 1992, and Batman Returns, June 19th, 92. It grossed $266.8 million worldwide on a budget of $80 million. So that's pretty good cash right there. Yep. And today's money, it's over $500 million. And it was nominated for 2 Academy Awards. I did not know that, and I thought that was really interesting, even though it was for just Best Visual Effects and Best Makeup. But still, I mean, anytime you can get a superhero movie nominated for an Oscar, that's
Definitely.
pretty dang cool. It didn't win either, but still really cool. You haven't seen this one.
Correct.
Right. Once you do watch this, you will really appreciate those things in the movie, especially. And doing the research for this, it brought back a lot of memories. I really think that this was the Batman, of the first 4, the one that I probably I watched the most, I bet.
Sure. I feel like I've heard that this is the best one.
It is very good. It is very, very good. Why it matters, I read an interesting article called All the Ways Batman Returns Was the Greatest Anti-Blockbuster by William Fisher. And this was published in 2021, so it was a good year ago. And it was on Collider.com. The tagline in the article is, Warner Brothers wanted a sequel. Tim Burton wanted kinky. So, I mean, that's some clickbait for you, I guess. Yeah. Huh? It had a bigger budget than the first Batman film, and Tim Burton was basically given free rein to do what he wanted to do. And apparently what he wanted to do was to poke fun at giant Hollywood blockbuster movies. It's an anti-blockbuster. I mean, just the fact that it is a movie set at Christmas that was released in June. Do you expect to see a Christmas movie in June?
Never.
Now, with the advent of streaming, that may not seem so weird now because you can watch anything you want, anytime you want. But
right.
That is definitely not a normal thing to do in 1992. It's definitely a different kind of Batman movie, and you can even say that about 1989 Batman. Most people would expect like a classic superhero arc where you see the superhero has a setback, the superhero claws back to success and then saves the day, right? Mm-hmm. Both Batman 89 and Batman Returns are more concerned with exploring who Bruce Wayne is and who Batman is and why Batman does what Batman does.
Right.
It's not so much about what he's doing, but it's why he's doing it.
Yeah.
Really, you only see, so in this article, the point that I really opened my eyes to both of these movies was the fact that you see Batman reacting to what's happening. He's not in an active role of stopping crime or going and finding these people. He's taking on this stuff as it's happening.
Right.
He's doing it. He's out patrolling just like a police officer would. You're out patrolling. You're reacting to situations. You're figuring out what you need. And you're doing the best Batman stuff you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Tim Burton was given tons of latitude with Batman Returns, and he gave the studio, and most importantly the audience, something completely unexpected. And when you see this movie, you're going to see it's completely unexpected.
Sure.
It's very good, and it's quite different than what you really expect. Like, you understand what a Tim Burton movie means.
Yeah.
So it won't be like so much like, oh my God, I can't believe any of this.
Yeah.
It's definitely a very cool take on Batman and how a Batman sequel can be handled.
Spoiler request: is his suit any different? Than
No,
the second
same dumb suit.
Same dumb suit. Sorry, people.
Same dumb suit. So that was definitely a spoiler, I guess. With that, is there anything else that you wanted to talk about for Batman Returns? Anything you potentially could share with that?
I love Jack Nicholson more than I thought I did already.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen online so many times who's the best Joker, and in my head it was just always Heath Ledger. There's no comparison. I thought, oh, I'm sure Jack Nicholson was good. Everyone can agree that Leto was probably the worst. And then you see some people say Mark Hamill for the animated was the best. But, man, I'd have to rewatch The Dark Knight to get it. But after watching this twice, I don't know if it gets better than Jack Nicholson.
You said it very well. Nicholson and Heath Ledger's Jokers have a lot of similarities, but they're also two different takes on the same character.
Two different takes. I can definitely tell Ledger respects the hell out of Nicholson because he gives multiple nods to his character, which is really cool. I like seeing that.
Agreed. Yeah, definitely a very good movie. I'm excited to watch the sequel, and there's probably a pretty good chance we're going to continue with the Batman theme for a couple more movies.
Yep, there might be 4 of them.
I was going to throw in talking about how I played the Game Boy Batman and the Nintendo Batman, and even now that I have the Super Nintendo Batman Returns, that I even played that a little bit. But I think I may want to save some of those video games for maybe their own little short episode.
Sure.
Maybe we can touch on them a little bit more in the next episode, but unless you got anything else, I'm ready to transition to our outro.
Time for the outro.
All right.
Time for some fan questions. So our first one is from Retro Gamer wants to know, are there any games you remember renting a bunch when you were a kid besides Metal Gear Solid for you, Drew?
Kirby All-Stars for the Super Nintendo. That was a game that I rented quite a bit. It was a popular one at Hollywood Video, and they only had the one copy. And it was like, for a long time, it was go to Hollywood Video, go to the game section, look for Kirby All-Stars. If it wasn't there, okay, we'll go find our second choice. So Kirby All-Stars. I love that game. I still play it today.
Always praying that your save file's still on that
copy
of the game.
And occasionally it would be, and a lot of times it wouldn't be.
Yeah, like, what are you doing deleting my save? Yeah, for me, I wrote down a couple that I always remember. Booger Man. Booger!
I don't think I know that one.
Oh my gosh, you've never played Booger Man?
I don't think so. Is it Super Nintendo?
It's Super Nintendo and Genesis, actually. Yeah, I mean, you're Booger Man. Okay. You're in a green outfit and with a red cape, and your attacks are flicking boogers at people. Is like a fireball for Mario. You fart, so fart clouds, and then burps. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's just kind of like a Mario platformer from one side to the other.
Cool.
And then I wrote down Mickey's Ultimate Challenge. It was another Super Nintendo puzzle game. And Earthworm Jim 2.
I was just going to say that Booger Man sounded like Earthworm Jim to me. That's what I thought of.
I love Earthworm Jim.
That's a good video game.
All Super Nintendo again. I can't get away from Super Nintendo.
No, can't get away. That's a good system.
Next question is from I like movies. Wants to know, same question as before, but movies. Any movies you remember renting a bunch when you were a kid?
I was really into the Mad Max trilogy. I saw Mad Max Road Warrior on TV, probably on TNT or AMC or something like that on a Sunday afternoon. That's that Mel Gibson dystopic future. There's no gasoline type of thing. And I would rent Road Warrior, and then I found that was actually the second movie in the series, so I rented Mad Max, which was like a very Australian Mel Gibson doing the same kind of thing, fighting gangs, but it's a little bit before like the world kind of goes to crap.
Sure.
And then the third one, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, the most Hollywood of the three movies, is definitely really cool. Master Blaster. Tina Turner's in it. She sings a couple of songs on the soundtrack. That would be one that I'd be really interested in doing for an episode.
So some of the ones I remember renting all the time is the Three Ninjas movies.
Very good.
I don't know what it was, but I was obsessed with martial arts when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. My cousins were into martial arts, and maybe it's because I wasn't and thought it was badass, but something about a character getting a specific color and being a ninja. It's just hits me in the feels.
That's awesome.
And then I wrote down video game movies because I probably rented Double Dragon, Street Fighter, and both Mortal Kombats so many times my dad had to be pissed. I remember for whatever reason, and this is probably the worst of the four, Mortal Kombat Annihilation, when I rented it, I watched it 4 times in a row. Who does that? Seriously, I had way too much time on my hands as a kid. And then I also rented a bunch of wrestling movies because I used to be into
good
wrestling
stuff. Good stuff. One quick thing about that Street Fighter movie with Jean-Claude Van Damme. Did you know Raul Julia, the guy that played M. Bison, that was his last movie that he ever made?
It's so crazy.
Yeah, he was literally dying of cancer while making that movie.
While Van Damme was doing coke or something
and was
crazy.
being a complete complete, what you'd expect out of Jean-Claude Van Damme about that time.
Next question. Genesis fan wants to know, do you have a favorite Sega Genesis game?
Favorite Sega Genesis game. I didn't play a whole lot of Sega growing up. I decided to buy a Generation 1 Genesis probably about 10 years ago off of eBay. It still works. I bought a bunch of games for it. I think that it's going to be really hokey, but I'm going to say the first Sonic game.
Not a bad choice.
And what was the Vector Man?
Yep.
I enjoyed Vector Man quite a bit also.
Yeah. I'm pretty much the same. I wrote Sonic and Knuckles.
Oh, yeah.
I remember being obsessed with Knuckles.
That was really cool how you could put the 2 cartridges together, like of any of them, right?
Yeah,
you can put Knuckles into any of the games.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And then we've got Pocket Change wants to know, what was your go-to arcade cabinet game?
Well, at Pocket Change, the local, at one time, local arcade, I think the one that I put the most money into, like I would go over to that Virtua Fighter machine all the time and put money into that thing, even though I would get my butt kicked. I bet you I put that one and what was the Aerosmith game where you had the guns and you'd shoot the CDs? I loved playing that one for some Aerosmith Revolution, something like that. That was one of them that I used to play a whole bunch. They had a stand-up Tetris game there that I liked to play. It had really cool. The music was a little bit different. It was fun to play. I'm trying to think of what else was there. Man, that was so long ago.
It was.
Man, oh man. But yeah, I mean, just in general, I dumped so much money into that.
So much money.
I still have some of their prize tickets somewhere.
I wrote down Miss Pac-Man, of course. And then most of the multiplayer games. X-Men Arcade,
definitely.
TMNT, Turtles in Time, and Battletoads.
Definitely. Those are all great games to play at an arcade.
Next question here is, Lauren wants to know, what was your favorite snack for watching cartoons growing up?
So I had the snack that I would get when I would come home from daycare or school. I would go to the cupboard and get the bag of semi-sweet chocolate chips that my mom would use for baking and mini marshmallows, put them together in a bowl, sometimes add peanuts, but that was the snack.
Oh,
almost
man,
every day.
I did not see that coming.
That was the snack. That was the snack.
That's hilarious.
I don't know. It's just one of those things. That's what I like to eat.
I wrote down Lunchables. Can't go wrong with Lunchables.
Can't go wrong with Lunchables.
Handy snacks. Back when they had the little red spatula to spread the cheese. They're doing us an injustice now without that. And then this doesn't exist anymore, but Ruffles the Works. Do you remember?
Oh,
that?
I definitely remember. Those don't.
I don't think they exist anymore.
Yeah.
Supposedly every kind of flavor mixed into one. Yeah, that was my cousin's go-to, but I liked it too. And then we got one more from Lauren here. She wants to know, what was your go-to cereal for Saturday morning cartoons?
It was always between Life or Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Fruit Loops was in the rotation. It's pretty much those 3. Honey Nut Cheerios.
For sure.
Yeah. I stayed away from Captain Crunch and stuff. It was too rough on the mouth. I mean, that's the joke with that. But
I ate way too much cereal. I still do. But for me, I put down Cocoa Puffs or Trix. One of those two.
Oh, I can't believe I didn't say Trix. Trix was on the list. Same thing with Fruity Pebbles.
For kids,
no,
sorry.
It's not just for kids. Trix when it was the little balls, right?
Yep.
And then it went to the fruit shapes. And now it's back to the balls.
And now it's back to the shapes. It's back to the shapes again.
Flip flop.
I don't know this because I still buy Trix. And the next one here, we got Zombie Jonathan writes in to say, I like turtles. All right, Jonathan.
Thanks,
right,
Jonathan.
Well, that about wraps it up here for our questions. So a reminder to everybody that next episode's homework is Batman Returns, the 1992 film. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Make sure you email us at Overdue Homework Podcast at gmail.com. If you were a faithful listener and you listened to the first one, I said Overdue Homework at gmail.com. That is incorrect. It is Overdue Homework Podcast at gmail.com. So make sure you guys tune in to the next exciting episode of the Overdue Homework Podcast.